Okay, still see some folks joining. Give her another 10 seconds here. Okay, well, I think uh, I think that's all the participation we're expecting to join today. So we'll go ahead and get started. So good afternoon, folks. This is round 7 of the SREC-based financing program. This is the RFP overview webinar. If you are logged in, there's a link to the Skype in order to view the desktop presentation. Otherwise, if you're on the phone, you can just follow along. At the moment, all the phones, I've muted all the phones, so we'll keep everything on mute until the end of the call. And at the end of the call, just be forewarned, I will unmute all the lines, so you will be able to pose questions live, and I'll host a live Q&A session at the end of this presentation. So our agenda today, we'll go through the RFP website just quickly, the communications protocol, give you an overview of the RFP, the eligibility, the targets, the bid application, some of the fees that are involved, developer caps. We'll go through the evaluation process, the evaluation in terms of the competitiveness of bid prices. We'll recap the 6th round, and we'll go through the award notifications and kind of your next steps on to how to participate, the schedule for this round, and then we'll host the Q&A. So just as a reminder, we are maintaining all the RFP documents. Virtually everything associated with this program is available on the njsolarprogram.com website. The latest RFP documents is under the Documents tab. Please review that. It includes the bid rules, the application form, and the SREC PSA. And the SREC PSA is by the utility and by the segment. So we'll go ahead and move on here. So the communication protocol, again, my name is Dia Kojak from Navigant. I'm the solicitation manager, and we are responsible for managing all the communications related to the RFP. So we ask that you submit your questions either via the website, email, or you can call us on the phone at 201-503-7732. Email is generally the most convenient. We'll get back to you. If you want to schedule a call, you can send us an email and we'll call you back as soon as we can. So this RFP, just as an overview, what it's looking for is SRECs from eligible solar PV facilities. Generally, those are new solar PV facilities, unless they're on a Segment 3 project, they're on a landfill or other brownfield site. There's some flexibility to that. Otherwise, for Segment 1, which is the small commercial and residential, and Segment 2, larger commercial type projects, those are all for new projects. And at the end of this, when you're awarded a contract, it's for the SRECs over a 10-year term. And so the 3 participating EDCs in this RFP, this joint solicitation, are Atlantic City Electric, Jersey Central Power and Light, and Rockland Electric. So if you have a project in those territories and you're looking for a 10-year SREC PSA contract, this is the RFP for you. Generally, we look for folks that are ready to install a new solar PV system, have done the initial groundwork, going through the SRP process, and if you're at that point, early, it's essentially early in the development cycle. But if you're ready to go and you have, all the details ready with respect to your solar PV system, then you can participate in this program. So moving on to slide 7 here, the eligibility. Of course, it has to be located, a new solar PV project has to be located within one of the EDCs, the utility service territories. So it's Atlantic City Electric, JCP&L, and Rockland Electric. It could be either residential or non-residential projects. Again, we have 3 segments which cover the field. All projects must be installed on the customer side of the electric meter and agree to a net metering arrangement. This is for the Segment 1 and 2, the small commercial, residential, and larger commercial projects. those have to be on the customer side of the meter. There is an exception for segment 3, that's grid supply, and we'll kind of handle that separately. Um, Given the differences in segment 3 versus segment 1 and 2 and fewer projects, I recommend anybody with the segment 3 project, reach out to us directly because the rules are a little different with respect to those projects. Anyway, just moving down the list here, you do need your project needs to be equipped with a generation meter to measure SREC production. This is the standard requirement in New Jersey. This is nothing different. The rules under this program do not differ from what you need to otherwise install as part of the SRP process, registering your project and receiving RECs. So it's the same sort of meter. And then again, fitting within one of the 3 segments. If you're a net metered residential small commercial below 50 kW, or less than or equal to 50 kW, that's a segment 1 project, so that receives its own allocation. Segment 2 projects are 50 kW and above. There was a cap of 2 megawatts that was lifted, so you can bid up to the target quantity or the applicable developer cap, whichever is lower. And we'll talk about the developer caps in a bit. Segment 3, these are grid supply projects, so these are direct interconnections to the transmission system. If they're on if they've been certified or by the BPU as located on a closed landfill, brownfill, or other area of historic fill, then you can proceed to bid into the solicitation round. There are some ineligible projects. There's some existing projects primarily. The board rules specifically notes the core projects under core customer on-site renewable energy rebate program from 2001-2008 are not eligible. But beyond that, just to be clear, all projects already interconnected to the grid or have already been constructed to an extent aren't eligible. That is particularly the case for segment 1 and 2. There's some flexibility on segment 3 with respect to whether if your project is already under construction and going through the interconnection process, you could still qualify for segment 3. But generally, most of those who are on this call are focused on segment 1 and 2. You cannot start construction until after receiving notice that you've received an award, and at that point you can begin your construction. So if you have an existing project or one that's already under construction right now, you can't bid into segment 1 and 2 at this point. It has to be for a new project. Okay, moving on to the solicitation targets. We're looking for here a total of 39 megawatts of total projects, new solar PV projects in this round 7. We have a breakdown by EDC in this table that's shown here. You'll note there's plenty of capacity. The total program target by round 9 was 80 megawatts. And so far, about 20 or so megawatts has been fulfilled, and you have about 39 megawatts remaining. Additional capacity comes online each round, so that's added to the target, and what's subtracted is whatever is awarded in a given round. So at this point, there's plenty of segment 1 and 2 capacity. It's subject really to the offering of a competitive price. So although there is a target or a capacity available in the program, that's not a guarantee that a bid would be accepted. It goes through an evaluation process that we described later in this presentation. Just one thing to note, the segment 3 for JCP&L, that has been fulfilled as of the last round. If that changes, if there's any changes made, we'll let you know, but at this point there is no targeted capacity for segment 3 under JCP&L. For those who are participating in round 6, you would note that there was no targeted capacity for RECO under segment 1 and 2. That was not a round that was scheduled for RECO to have capacity in segment 1 and 2. In this round, this is essentially the total allocation for RECO. So there's no follow-on capacity. This is essentially the max available, and that will continue to carry on until it's fully subscribed. subject to, of course, competitive pricing determination and whether you're awarded or not based upon that. So that sort of recaps what the targets are. I'll take any detailed questions at the end if you have any questions on this. So just make a note of it. I'll come back to it. Important to note, if you've participated in the program already, or if you have a large project you intend to submit in, let's say, segment 2, you have to abide by the developer cap. So although, for example, we lifted the segment 2 cap, and there's if I move back a slide, you can see in JCP&L there's 17,000 kilowatts of capacity available, and another 13,000 or so kilowatts available in Atlantic City Electric for segment 2. Although there's no cap, you are limited to the developer cap in the aggregate. So you can't put in projects that add up to more than the developer cap that's noted in this column here, KWDC. So for segment 1, I don't expect anybody to exceed the developer cap in segment 1 because these are a lot of small projects, so you'd need about 100 projects to exceed it. So it's not really much of a concern in segment 1 at this point. Really where it's coming into play is segment 2, where you're able to bid in some of the larger projects. So in this case for JCP&L, if you have a segment 2 project, it cannot exceed 7,800 kW DC if this is your first project, and it cannot exceed 7,800 kW in the aggregate. So if you have multiple projects and you add them up, it can't go over 7,800. So please keep that in mind. This actually did come into play in the last round, so and we do want to make a note of that. Similarly for Atlantic City Electric, for segment 2, the project cannot exceed 3,450 kW, and if you have prior awards or you're looking to bid in multiple projects in this round, try not to exceed 3,450 kW. There are no developer caps that are applicable to either RECO or segment 3, so it's not a concern there. It's just for segment 1 and 2. Segment 1, just a thing to note, there's an in-round cap, but at this point, because the aggregate capacities are high, if we were to be fully subscribed in a given round, then we might have to apply a 20% in-round cap. So if you look at, for segment 1, 1654 kW, we would have to apply about a 320 kW cap or thereabouts if we were to be fully subscribed. Okay, we'll move on. This is generally an all-around developer cap. That's where it usually comes into play. So just keep that in mind. For the bid application, there is a bid application. So it's a Appendix B, sorry, Attachment B on the website. And essentially, it walks you through everything you need to fill out in order to submit into the program. There are certain attachments that are noted in there. So if you follow it from top to bottom, and I do suggest that folks take a look at that bid application early on, understand what information you need, and if you have any questions, now's the time to ask it. Don't wait till the end. Even if you're still developing projects, take a look through that bid application and understand what sorts of information you need to capture at this point. So the first step here, or the stumbling block that many folks kind of encounter, is with respect to the SREC registration program. This is a program that's managed separately from our program. This is just a general New Jersey NJ Clean Energy program whereby you register your new project for eligibility to be issued SRECs and to enter the New Jersey market. If you go to njcleanenergy.com, that is the website that has all the requisite information you need with respect to the SREC registration program. The link we have here in the presentation is essentially the direct application link. When you're ready to submit the application to the program administrator, this is the link you use. But otherwise, look at njcleanenergy.com and the SREC registration program process. That is the first step you need to take in order to participate in our program. Once you have an SRP number, nowadays they're issued sort of immediately. We need the application to be fully accepted. If you have any questions on that, just follow up with us. But when you submit, they've been turning around the applications a lot faster. Before it was a more of a manual process. Now the NJ, the SREC SRP administrator has, using the online portal, it's more automated. They're able to turn around applications within a week if you submit, that is, a complete application to them. If there are any deficiencies in your application to the administrator, they tend to kick it back and it'll take longer. So just keep that in mind. We used to have a process where we try to fast track your application through them. Since they've been turning around applications quickly, we no longer need to do that. If you do encounter a problem and need something fast tracked, you can still reach out to us directly and we'll try to do that for you. But otherwise, just go to njcleanenergy.com, follow up with them there. So once you do that, you get a NJ SREC SRP number, as it's termed. You can go ahead and fill out the consolidated bid application. A lot of it is self-explanatory. There's some required attachments in Section 13, and it pertains to whether the customer owns the facility or not, and whether the solar PV owner is the same as the customer. If there's any sort of disconnect there, then there's some authorizations you need to attach to your application so that everybody is aware of what their role is, whether they're just a site host or whether they're the direct program participant. That's the sort of question that needs to be answered, and there's some attachments associated with that. So in going through your bid application, the key section is the price bid. And again, since this is a 10-year fixed price contract, I will remind folks that the current SREC spot market price does not reflect a bid price that is competitive. We have some further guidance later down in this presentation that we'll go through, but developing your price bid is kind of the core task of this process to submit an application to us. Right before you submit your application, there's a small transaction fee. The portal is located on our website. It's on njsolarprogram.com. You have to pay that fee, copy the confirmation number onto the application, and then it completes the application. You submit it to us electronically prior to the due date of August 25th by 5 p.m. We need to receive it by 5 p.m. Please do not wait till 4:59. Give yourself enough time and let us have it before. If there's a minor deficiency, it can be cured, so don't try to make it, if there's something small there, you could just make sure we have it by 5 p.m. We could always cure any deficiency after. The only deficiency we cannot really cure is if it's missing the price. But if there's a small detail that's missing, we'll give you another week to address a deficiency. So just make sure we get it by 5 p.m. That is the deadline. That is the cutoff. If we don't have it by then, you can't cure the application. You can't do anything. You have to wait till the next round to submit to us. So this is the application submittal fee that we just mentioned. Again, it's on our website. It's $25 for JCP&L and Atlantic City Electric for segment 1. $50 for segment 2, and for segment 3 it's $150 across the board. For RECO, it doesn't matter which segment you're in, it's $150. So after you pay, you'll get that confirmation number, and it's included. You include that number in the application. There's another set of fees. The SREC price that you bid in is not what you're paid under the agreement. It's net of the following fees. So please keep it in mind when you develop your SREC bid prices. For Atlantic City Electric, it's $39.66 per SREC in total. For JCP&L, it's $48.21, and for RECO, it's $69.11 per SREC. So that comes off of the price. So if a price were to come in at $165 for Atlantic City Electric, about $40 is taken off the $39.66. So the net of what you're paid is $125.34. This SREC fee is to cover the transaction and administrative costs of the program when they go ahead and resell the SRECs into the market, because they're essentially taking that risk from you, and they need to manage the process to then liquidate the SRECs, and any difference is then accounted for between the current SREC spot price and the price that you're paid. So what you're paid is fixed, and just to manage the sales and other administrative costs of the program, that's where this transaction fee. That's why there is this transaction fee, as part of the program. Okay, so that concludes the bid application and the fees. This slide goes through the evaluation process. So what we do when we receive your application is we first review it for completeness. We reject any proposals that are ineligible. So if your project is already constructed and it's interconnected, and it's clear from the application that it is, then we would have to reject that. Again, if your proposal is incomplete, we allow you to address deficiencies within a week's time. We let you know almost right away. But if you proceed to not address any deficiency, then it's deemed incomplete, and at that point it gets rejected. After that, after we go through that process and qualify your application, we rank the bid prices from low to high by segment, between segments as well. Then we apply the developer caps. So for each segment and utility, we look to see if there's any prior awards. We look in the in-round to see how much each developer is bidding in, and we check that against the developer caps to make sure there isn't an exceedance. If there is an exceedance, we have to then knock off projects from a potential award. If it's a large project that exceeds the cap, then we have to essentially disqualify the entire project. So you have to remain under the developer cap to proceed in the evaluation. Once we organize the information, we conduct an analysis to determine whether your pricing is competitive nature. There's a variety of factors we look at. Not everything is public. Actually, most of it is not public, so we can't advise you what all the factors are. But if you look in the BPU order, it indicates what are some of the things that we look at when we're making that determination. In step 6, we present once we determine whether pricing is competitive or not, and that's made on a case-by-case basis. We go through each bid and make that pricing competitiveness determination. We proceed to present our findings on pricing competitiveness and overall to the EDCs, the board staff, and the rate council, the BPU rate council. We solicit their input. They then provide us with input, which we take into consideration. We go through another round. We may adjust our initial recommendations based on that input. We take it into very strong consideration, and then we proceed to submit our confidential findings and recommendations to the Board of Public Utilities for their consideration. They're the final. They have the final say. They either issue awards. They have the power to decline our recommendations. At the end of the day, once they rule on it, the awards are announced publicly. Again, with respect to the bid prices on competitiveness, we ask bidders to offer as competitive a price as possible, the lowest possible price, in order to maximize their chances of selection. And I know we're on round 7 of 9, so there's no room really for experimentation to resubmit, and there's only a few rounds left. If you're looking to get a project in, now's the time, and to get it in on a competitive price. So once again, only those bids that are competitive are awarded in the program. And the SREC spot market price, that is not necessarily an indication of a competitive price for a long-term contract. Again, the SREC price reflects today's market, and this is giving you a price for the next 10 years that you can reasonably rely upon. So that is the key difference. When you develop your pricing bids, we ask you consider the long-term nature of the contract, the fixed price nature of it. We also ask that you consider that the SACP prices for the SREC program, they too decline as time goes on. So, it's expected that SREC prices trend down, not only for this reason, but for other market dynamics that I'm sure most of you are aware of, supply, demand, and the current program authorization. That has an impact. So take a look at that. And again, it's typical when you're going out in the market and you're looking for a long-term fixed price contract that it's priced at a discount to the spot market prices. So that is what is expected in the program. Just looking at the 6th-round results, just recapping the latest round for segment 1, and this combines all the EDCs. We report them all together. We don't split it out in this report. We received 29 bids in total, about 535 kW. 9 bids awards were made, so 272 kW was awarded. 20 bids were rejected because the pricing was found not to be competitive, and the average price that was accepted in segment 1 was 154.99. Segment 2, 19 bids were received. We received a healthy response there, about 10,500 kW. 9 bid awards were made, about 6,200 kW in total awards were made. 8 bids were rejected because the pricing was not competitive in those instances. 2 bids were rejected because of the developer cap issue. Again, that's why I'm pointing that out in this round. Keep in mind the developer caps. Those apply, cumulatively across all rounds. Once you hit it, you essentially cannot bid any further. The average price for segment 2 projects was $156.66 per SREC. Segment 3, we received our first bid in the program for segment 3, and it was 5,200. It was for the total capacity that was offered, and a bid award was made because the bid price was competitive. Because it was only one bid award, whenever the bids are few in number, an average is not released in terms of the accepted price. So in this case, it was not released, because otherwise we'd be telling you what that bid award was. We try to be, as you submit bids, it's a confidential number, individual bid prices awards, and for that reason it was not released. So again, the award notifications, the final awards are determined by the BPU. They are memorialized in a board order that is issued following a board meeting. So this is an official sort of document that states whether our recommendations were accepted, or if there's any changes, they note that in the award, in the board order. And from that board order, we then go out and notify you as to whether you've been successful or unsuccessful at that time. Once you're awarded, there's a few quick action items you need to accomplish. So to secure your award, you must submit a cash deposit no later than 14 days following the board order. So I'd like to remind and reiterate the need to do this because, again, some folks were not aware of this and could not necessarily come up with the minimum cash deposit, particularly for the larger projects that are sort of closer to the maximum, 20,000. So if you are bidding in and you're getting close to the award date, I would just remind and advise that you put a reminder in the calendar that this is coming up, to kind of review the bid, get ready to potentially put a deposit down, because this is coming. If we advise you that you're successful, you have exactly 14 days from that board order to submit the deposit. Again, the deposit is $75 per kW that's bid in. The minimum is 500 and the max is 20,000. So if you have a pretty small project and it's below, the multiplication comes out to below 500, 500 is what you submit. If it's a large project that exceeds a certain number of kWs and the mathematics comes out to somewhere above 20K, then the max you pay per project is 20,000. And once again, the SREC PSAs, based on the board order date, there's about a 45-day period, and after that 45-day period, the board order actually becomes final, and the SREC PSAs can be immediately executed at that point. The EDCs, generally the utilities, the electric distribution companies, they work on the PSAs during that period, and they're usually ready to go at that time, at the 45-day mark, to sign and execute the PSAs. So again, just to recap how to participate, we advise folks to review the RFP bid rules, read that on the website. You then have to register your project with the SREC registration program. We actually have those registration instructions on our website. If you're not familiar with the New Jersey market, if you haven't done a project before, then that's new to you. If you've done it before, if you receive an SRP number, same process, just follow that process, get the SRP number, and then go ahead and complete the bid application, pay the application fee, and submit it to us by email no later than 5 p.m. on August 25th. If you have any questions, anytime during the RFP process, you can call us or email us at njsolar@navigant.com, or call us at 201-503-7732. This is the target schedule. So the release of this RFP was on the 5th of July. Today's the RFP overview webinar. The next date is the bid application. It's due on August 25th. So you have about a month and a week, from today to submit, get that bid application complete and submit it to us. We intend to review our preliminary recommendations with the staff and the various parties in mid-September. By the end of September, we would be submitting our recommendations to the board, and by the October board meeting date, we expect to hear back as to the results. And so, sometimes we receive the board order the same day. Other times we receive it a few days later. If it lands on a Friday, for example, you might get it on a Monday. So just keep that in mind. We estimate by October 27th, we will announce the final awards, and by December 11, you would have executed the SREC PSAs with the utilities. So that concludes the presentation. I will now open the phone lines to questions, and just fair warning, I am now unmuting all the phone lines. Again, I am unmuting all the phone lines to take questions from the audience. Now it says I've unmuted the audience, but I think folks are still on mute. You actually have to now unmute yourself if you wish to talk. And I believe you can send a note to me via the chat function as well. Okay, any questions? I prefer the live questions over the chat questions. But if you want to remain anonymous, you can send me a chat notice. Okay, I think there's a question coming in, so I'll just hold on the line here. Okay, the question that came in is to review the developer caps by EDC. I'll scroll up in the presentation. So again, if you are a new entrant, if this is the first time you're participating in the program, what you need to know is for JCP&L, if you're particularly targeting the larger projects, segment 2 projects, in JCP&L across all rounds for segment 2, the total planned quantity is 39,000 kW. That's how much we're going out and soliciting for segment 2 projects. Segment 2 projects are projects that are above 50 kW, and presently there's no cap on those projects. So you can bid up to what we have here, the developer cap, if this is your first time. So you can bid a project in this round that's 7,800 kW DC. Now, if you've been awarded previously a project, that's, let's say, 1,000 kW, then in this round you can bid up to 6,800. If you plan on bidding multiple projects, they could be 2 projects that are 3,900 kW or any sort of combinations that add up to 7,800 kW total. So this applies only if you actually receive an award. So if in this round you put in 7,800 kW worth of projects and you're given 7,000, for example, but you're not awarded on the remaining 800, you can bid in that 800 in a subsequent round. If you were to receive 7,800 kW worth of JCP&L segment 2 projects in this round 7 in awards, then you can no longer participate in future rounds as part of this program. You're essentially capped out. The cap is 20% of the planned quantity. So you see 39,000, it's 20% of that, so 7,800. And feel free to unmute. Okay, the next question is whether the fees are non-refundable if the application bid does not clear or is rejected. So the only fees that are let me catch it. So this is the fee. So if you look at the application submittal fee, this fee is just to cover the program, maintenance, website, that kind of stuff, the administrative costs throughout the program. This fee is not refundable. So it's win or lose. The fee is not refundable. Now, if you're awarded a project and you put down the bid deposit, the bid deposit is, it can range from $500 to $20,000, $75 per kW, and you put your cash deposit down. That is to secure your award. So at that point, you've already been awarded, so there's no further kind of risk to losing your award. The onus is not the onus is now upon you to execute your project. So what they're looking to see is that you're serious, you're going to execute the SREC PSA, and this cash deposit is essentially held to make sure that your project comes online at the end. I would refer you to the SREC PSA if there are certain eventualities that might occur that prevents your project from being completed, some force majeure. There might be a possibility to receive the cash deposit back. But otherwise, if you simply fail to deliver, generally speaking, if you don't proceed forward with the project after receiving an award and after you've submitted that cash deposit is non-refundable. So just advise that you be very certain that you're going to proceed with the project when you put in that cash deposit. The other thing I also advise is to, again, if you receive an award in this round, there's no guarantee you might receive an award in subsequent rounds. So it's basically your chance to secure your award. I suggest you do so. So we have another question whether certain terms in the SREC PSA are negotiable. So the only thing that's negotiable are the things that are blank and need to be filled in. Everything else is not. It's a take it or leave it program because the SREC PSA was approved by the Board of Public Utilities. It's the form that absolutely must be used as part of the program. It's non-negotiable. It is what it is. So you'll have to accept it. You fill in, of course, some of the appendices to provide the details on your project, the location, who the counterparty is, etc. Everything else is set in stone with respect to the SREC PSA. So the other question is how quickly the NJ Clean Energy Program is turning around SRP applications. It's been our recent experience, and it's one thing we noted earlier, is that they're turning them around a lot quicker than they used to. And I think it's because of the online portal. Before, there was sort of a logjam in the system because it was a paper-based application, and they receive it and then they look through the papers and they process it, and there was a lot of back and forth. What they've done more recently since they've launched the online processing portal, it's gone a lot quicker. Like I've seen projects, if they're complete within a few days, they've been approved. So it's really on you to develop a complete SRP application to get through that process as quickly as possible. Um, So the question is, if they apply this week, would they be able to meet the August deadline? Yes, you would well clear the August deadline. I suggest doing it as soon as possible, just to make sure if there's any deficiency they note in the application that you have ample time to address it. That process is, I will have to note, it is quite involved. They request certain documentation to go with it. There's like a contract that they want to make sure you have a real project essentially. And I think one of the items is to have an executed contract with a potential off-taker customer, whoever, that shows that you're going to proceed forward with the project as part of the application materials. Some bidders, you could put in a clause in there, if it's contingent on our program, you can do that and it goes through the SRP process fine. So if you end up not getting an award, it could be the option of your customer, whoever, as to whether to proceed or not. Just keep that in mind. If the project is entirely contingent on receiving the 10-year SREC contract under this program. Any other questions? Good questions. I appreciate the questions that have come in. All right, going once. Any final questions? Again, I always encourage live questions via the audio, via phone call, whatever, via the computer. If you're on the Skype web app. Okay, well, it looks like that is it. I appreciate everybody joining today's call. We do look forward to receiving your applications. Once again, if you do have any questions, I'd be happy to take your emails or phone calls and speak with you directly. Again, my name is Dia Kojak from Navigant. The website is njsolarprogram.com. Email is njsolar@navigant.com. And our phone number is there if you want to reach out to us directly. So thank you very much and look forward to receiving your bid applications. Thank you and take care.